Hi, friends. Welcome back to today's episode of the Life with Loverly podcast. It has been a minute since we've recorded in the studio, I feel
know.
like.
We kind of came in and we're like, what do we do?
I know. We had to get our mics set back up. Also, if you are watching this on YouTube, you will see this lovely new Life with Loverly sign that we have in the middle of Nichelle and I now. Nichelle hung this like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. A little surprise when you came back from vacation.
Such a great surprise. It looks so good. And it looks like it was very hard to do. I heard she locked herself over here and just knocked it out for a while, but
yeah,
we appreciate you.
Of course.
Okay. Well, how's life? You went to a concert over the weekend. How was it?
It was good. I think it's the first time in a long time I've gone on a weeknight to go do something. So of course this morning I was just like, ugh. We went to go see the Beach Boys, which I joked it was like the Beach Boy because it's really just one of them still. But it was really cute. It was at this really fun venue that you can walk around with your drinks. So we went to go eat and walk around, had a couple of drinks, and then went to go see the show. And it was fun.
That's so fun.
Yeah, we were definitely the youngest in the group, but it was fun.
I mean, great people watching, I'm sure.
For sure. What'd you guys do?
We had a birthday party for a close friend, and so all day kind of pool party thing, which was really fun. And then we did a movie night with the girls on Saturday night and let them stay up a little later. I mean, they're 3 and 4, so it's kind of,
you're like 8:30.
Yeah. Hazel was definitely not, she could have ended 45 minutes in. She started getting restless. Collins was like, why are they doing that? I don't understand. But we watched the real Aladdin.
Yes.
And it was great. I mean,
the live action?
Yeah, the live action one. And then on Sunday we went up to the lake and I got to see some family friends who are pretty much, I would consider them my grandparents.
Yeah.
Both of my sets of grandparents lived far away when I was growing up, and this couple just kind of stepped in when we met them in the late 90s, and they just kind of took over that grandparent role. And they live in Florida now, so we don't get to see them a ton, but they are in town for a few weeks.
Aww.
And so they met the girls, and just it was just so fun to be back with them.
Yeah.
So just lots of family time over the weekend.
Good.
It was great.
So today we are asking, is marriage and motherhood everything you thought it would be? So whether you're a wife or a mom or a wife and a mom to be, not, we wanted to normalize some of the hard things and then celebrate a lot of the special things as well.
Yes. So Chris and I are about to celebrate our 8-year anniversary at the end of this month. And we've got 2 girls, 4 and 3. And it's definitely, I feel like we've gone through some ups and downs. Mm-hmm. How long have you and Robert been married?
We have been married 19 years.
Okay.
So it'll be, 20 years in May. So 19 years. Gosh. I know, it's a long time. We've been together since 2000, so together 23 years. So so 19 years, definitely the roller coaster of a relationship, because you are going to experience everything within that time frame. I remember my parents even saying give it 10 years.
Yeah.
And you will have hit probably every emotion you can hit in a marriage. And it's very true.
Yeah.
It's very true. So we have an 18-year-old and a 12-year-old. Gosh, I had to think about that for a second.
So crazy.
Not real. So one is going into college and the other one is in middle school. And, we started off our marriage and very quickly got pregnant. 3 months. So we went right into the whole family situation right as soon as we got married.
Yeah. I can imagine that's you probably had all these dreams for oh great, we're going to get married and it's going to be like this. And
we're going to be in our mid-30s before we even talk about kids.
Right.
And we were like, wait, what? What just happened?
Right. You're like,
that wasn't in the plans, but it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. We've made it work. So
yeah, I think that's kind of just part of it is you you have to work at it every single day.
Yeah. I mean, people ask this all the time, like, what's your special like secret sauce, or like, what's the magic behind, being together that long? Work.
Right.
Hard work, because it's not all rainbows and unicorns. See, motherhood's not, marriage is not. And I mean, I can tell you, like, I was 17 when we met.
Mm-hmm.
I was not who I am today when we met. So there were a lot of like moments where we both were finding ourselves through that, the first part of our marriage. And we were like, yeah, that's not me anymore.
Right.
So we need to get to love who we are now, not who we were.
The like growing together and always like the just changing together.
Exactly.
Or making that commitment to do that. Because I don't know, there's a lot of people that grow out of love, Yeah. And it's like, okay, but like, could there have been like more work put into it?
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have happened. I mean, I don't know.
And I feel like you had a little bit of a different situation where you were like independent on your own, got to live that life, dated.
Yeah. Kind of had the whole, like, had a job, career, like my own schedule, dating, trying to figure out, like, it was almost, I remember being so jealous of my friends who just married their like college boyfriend or whoever they met like in college or right after, because it felt like then they were able to like start those next life steps together. But I really appreciated having a little bit of a break and just trying, like, having to figure it out for myself. And I remember as soon as I stopped trying to, like, is this guy going to be like the one I marry? Is this guy going to be the one I marry?
Yeah.
Because my parents, they met in college, dated, got married after college.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, well, that
this is
didn't
how it's
happen.
Supposed to
right.
happen. Yeah.
And then it didn't happen like that for me. And I was like, okay. So then you just start like sizing up every person you date. You're like, are you the one?
Right.
I don't think so. Are you the one? And so then when Chris and I started dating, I feel like we like quickly kind of were like, wow, this is like something, this is different
what it's supposed to be. Yeah.
What the past have been. But it took me being like, I'm okay being single.
Yeah.
Let me just live my life. It will happen when it happens. And once I like truly like accepted that is when Chris and I started dating. So it's weird.
Yeah.
The timing is crazy.
My parents were very young when they got married too. They met, I think, when they were 17, maybe 16, 17. And when they both turned 19, they got married.
Wow.
I know. And then obviously shortly thereafter I came, same situation. And I remember my mom being like, are you sure? You're very young. Are you sure? I'm like, yes, I'm in a different place than you are, mother.
Of course.
That's what we thought. So
you're like, huh?
Exactly.
Back
like
now,
I'm so mature for my age,
She's like, I said the same thing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. What was the happiest surprise that you have experienced in your relationship since you've been married?
I would say probably that it's a built-in best friend. You have a built-in best friend. This is the person you usually go to about everything, any situation you have going on, and they're on your team.
Yes.
Obviously, when the time's right. I also feel like your best friend's going to tell you when things aren't supposed to be like, hey, this is wrong, actually. Maybe you should think of it this way.
Right.
But yeah, it's a built-in like best friend. So.
Yeah. I agree. I kind of think you just have this teammate. Like, and if you've made that commitment to like be on the same team, like you guys are, together on things. And so going into hard situations or decision making, you have somebody you can do that with. But I would agree, like just having that best friend all the time. And like, I think I really enjoyed like the dating him like after we were married.
Yeah.
Before we had kids and while we were struggling to get pregnant and going through IVF, we like really stayed strong on the like, we need to continue to like date each other and like stay in love because this is something that's very hard that could like pull us apart. And like trying to do new things always felt like this is so fun. Like I'm with somebody every day that I like genuinely love and want to spend time with.
Right.
So I'm very thankful that that's a feeling that like I've experienced in my relationship.
So knowing what you know now about marriage, do you feel like you were prepared going into it?
I don't know. I think, yes and no. I think it's hard to like really be fully prepared. I mean, you don't know what you're like if you've never been married before, you don't know what marriage is going to really be like. But I think like we did premarital counseling, and I kind of wish we would have done it like maybe a little bit earlier in our engagement and had it go for longer.
Oh, instead of like the couple months leading up to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
Or maybe even like, I mean, I don't really think people do like dating counseling, or maybe they do, but there were just some things that came up when a mediator was like, what are you going to do about this? Or where, Chris grew up Catholic, you grew up Christian, like how are you going to like raise your kids?
Yeah.
And us both being like, well,
right.
Well, I don't, what are, and this back and forth of like, well, what are we going to do? Maybe we hadn't discussed some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then that opened sort of Pandora's box to be like, well, wait a second, like I have more questions. So I kind of, sometimes I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Or things will pop up and I'm like, we probably should have worked through that before now.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I was definitely not prepared.
Yeah.
Not prepared. I was 21 when we got married. And looking back, I think my child is only a couple years away from that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
could you imagine Maddie getting married?
No, we definitely were in different places. but for sure, like I can't imagine, like you're a child. So yes, I think I went into it thinking, oh, it's just like we lived together beforehand. And I'm like, it's not going to be any different.
Yeah.
But there are decisions that come up that it's like we had Madison, obviously, a lot earlier than we anticipated, made it work. But then afterwards, I was like, I want to have another kid and I want them to be close together.
Mm-hmm.
And then Robert's like, wait, we're having another one? What? Like, we didn't talk about this, Right. So it's like we talked about, yes, later down the road, we're going to talk about kids and we're going to have kids, but we didn't talk about like, okay, how many do we want? Like, what's the goal? What's our family dynamic going to be like? There's a lot of things that come up afterwards. And I think hearing what a lot of people said about their advice was just having open, honest conversations about things you don't think you need to right now, but you do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And some of the stuff I feel like is awkward to have, but it's like, if you're going to spend your life with somebody, then there needs to like not be no such thing as awkward in your conversations.
Yeah.
So if you can't have that openly, then it's like, maybe there's some other questions around this. Like if you feel awkward talking about certain things, like,
what does that mean?
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah. I wish that there was some type of like life prep class. You know how like in college it's like, wow, it'd actually be way better if you could do like how to do your taxes or all these like real life skills. Like there should be some type of marriage, like what to expect. Here's like some info you could
questions
take.
You really need to ask each other. I know.
I'm sure that's out there on Pinterest somewhere now.
Is there anything that you would say you struggle with on a consistent basis within your relationship? Even funny, like agreeing on the temperature in the house, which I say that and it's like, yes, we do.
So I think Chris loves to like leave stuff on the counters.
I love how you were like, he is so positive. It's fine. He just likes to leave it on the counters.
So much so that in our new house, I am like, we literally need the least amount of counter space possible. Yeah. Like the amount of drawers we have coming in this new place.
The meetings that are happening for this house, it's so funny. It's like, I don't want a countertop there. And you're like.
And I'm like, hard, burning eyes into Chris. I'm like, you set your stuff on this.
You're like, this drawer is for stuff. The stuff. This is the drop zone.
Stuff. Yes. It's so funny to me because I will look around our kitchen, and granted, I feel like our kitchen that we have now has a lot of counter space, like to the point where
it's like welcoming.
I'm like, wow, why so much? But there's no other way to like have the kitchen be. And it's just like the perfect spot. And he gets these little like piles that just get built out, and I just get anxiety. I'm like, I will just go and wipe it all into the.
Yep.
I mean, don't tempt me with the trash can.
I know. You're like, it's real close.
I was looking at, so we have this little tray that is next to the coffee maker, and it's got like a few vitamins and medicines on it that has started to overflow. And now they're all lined up next to that and next to that. And I was looking at it last night, and I'm like, how can I like nicely, like calmly say, let's have a discussion about the best place for all of these vitamins to go. Like, where else could
the medicine cabinet?
Right. But that's completely full because it probably needs to get cleaned out. And, so
You're speaking my life right now.
I'm like, which one of these drawers can we dedicate to vitamins? And I will say, like, I've started taking some more vitamins and supplements too. So that is up there because I'm like, well, we're just going to add to it. But now my like skin is crawling when I look over there.
Yeah.
And it's just driving me crazy. So I started to just be like, okay, how would I want this conversation to be like brought to me? Like if he came to me and was like, what the, and freaking out, I would be like, screw you, bro. Like, don't talk to me. So now I'm like, okay, how is he gonna receive this if I am like nice about it? But anything with the countertops, he's already like, it's a losing battle.
On edge. Yes. He's very defensive in that aspect. Yeah. So, oh my gosh. So mine's the spice cabinet. So I don't cook, guys. And that's another one. I don't cook.
Little did Robert know before you guys got married.
I did cook because I kind of like had to, but I don't enjoy it. I find no joy in it. None. So he does. So we just allow that to be the situation. I'm like, you have the dishes and the kitchen stuff, and then I got the rest of the house. He loves to experiment. So therefore we have lots of spices and things and condiments, and to where when he's done cooking, there's like 15 on the counter. And I open the cabinet and I'm like,
does he just leave them on the counter?
Well, they don't fit because he has so many. But then it's like you open it and when you really start to evaluate, you're like, well, here's onion powder, here's onion powder, here's onion powder, and here's garlic powder, and here's garlic powder. There's like 15 of everything. And I'm like, you have accumulated so much that you can't even find it. So you buy a new one.
Right.
And then the process it snowballs. Okay. So he'll leave for a weekend. I didn't do it this weekend, but he'll leave for a weekend and I'm like, let's combine them all. He knows. As soon as he opens it, he's like, where's the chili powder? I'm like,
probably
it was
right
empty.
there.
I threw it away. It was not empty. There was still like 2 good meals that I could have used that on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on?
You're like, so the store is open. We can get you more chili powder if we don't have it.
It's a constant.
Yeah.
It's a constant thing. So yeah, there's a couple of things. I mean, we've had a good 23 years to accumulate these issues, but.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting too, like when you get married, like if you didn't live together before, everybody has their quirks and their things. And like, I remember Chris, when we moved in together, instead of hanging his wet towel in its designated like hanging spot, or at least like over the bathroom door, he would just like lay it on the bed, and then like it would stay on the bed, and I would be like, what? Like,
yeah,
how is this not working in your head? And I'm sure there were things that I would do that he would be like, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing XYZ that way?
Yeah.
But you learn so many things about the other person. I don't know. I feel like the first year of marriage can definitely be hard if you don't already know some of these things, because you're
I know. I feel like it took years for some things to come up because you just don't think about it at first.
Totally.
It's so crazy. Just like cups. I'm like, it's been sitting here for 8 hours now. I'm just going to put it in the sink. And then literally 60 seconds later, where's my cup? I'm like, you haven't touched it all day.
And now you're thirsty.
So his thing is there's no cup safe around this house. Like if you want your cup, it's got to stay with you.
Well, but your kids are also like.
Literally. I'm constantly like, what is this? I just got to pick it up and put it in the sink.
What is that movie? Sixth Descent? No. Signs. The movie Signs, where you have
they're getting
the
ready
water.
for an alien invasion.
Yes.
I know. That's what I feel like.
In case aliens come, you can toss the water
I
on
say
them.
that about our game room all the time upstairs. I'm like, are you guys getting ready for an alien invasion? Like, what is happening in here?
Yeah, man. Oh, man.
Anyway, I could go on.
Gosh, seriously. I'm sure I could too. All right, let's go into motherhood a little bit. How was postpartum for you?
I was oblivious until years later. It just wasn't talked about as much whenever I had my kids.
Yeah.
It was like taboo. So it didn't really come up. And it wasn't until several years later I was like, I'm just struggling. Like, I don't know what's going on with me. So when I started seeing a therapist, she immediately was like, you have postpartum depression. And I was like, she's 6. And she's like, yeah, that it hasn't been treated.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's how I found out what I had and what I was coping with. And that's, one of the reasons, like, a lot of people are like, oh, you deal with depression your whole life. I feel like I'm coming out of that because we were able to kind of go in and treat it. It just is so insane how it's sneaky.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize it.
Well, the hormones that are just moving through your body and being replaced and things, it's like, I don't understand. I feel like everybody has to have some level of postpartum. Like,
I think so too.
It's hormonal depression. And I think it can be like different for some people compared to others. Like, and as a new mom, you just don't know.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a first time mom, you're just like, what is life? Like, there's so many things to figure out. I really feel like I had a little bit more postpartum depression with Hazel, just because I think it was.
You had COVID you were dealing with too.
Yeah, like, during the COVID years, and just like the social anxiety and social pressures I was dealing with, like, as a public figure, trying to navigate those years, plus have a baby, plus being like a full-time career. Like, it was just a lot, plus having a toddler, moving to a new city. So many things. And I just remember like having conversations with Chris, and then just all of a sudden I would just be crying, and he would be like, oh my gosh, like, it is,
what is going on?
You don't need to cry. This is like fun. I'm like, I don't want to cry. Like, I'm not trying to cry. Like, I'm not even sure what is happening to my body. It just took over and decided, like, tears are necessary for right now. And it's the weirdest thing.
It is.
Like,
it's crazy. And the thoughts that go through your head too. Like, insane with, I don't think that I really struggled with it as much with Maddie. I did, obviously, but not as much as I did after Bryn. But I remember sitting there one night, and I was like breastfeeding normal, had decent sleep. And I just remember bawling my eyes out because all I could think was, I don't want to die. I don't want to die and leave my child.
Yeah. And it's like,
and it was all consuming for like literally 18 hours.
Yeah. The fears, just like, it's so hard. So I guess hear us have this conversation to just know, like, it's normal.
Yes.
You can get help. Like, you can talk to somebody, and like, highly encourage talking to somebody. I didn't start talking to a therapist until Hazel was probably like 2, maybe. And I wish that I would have just had somebody to talk to sooner, because I feel like some of these things could have like worked themselves out by just having like a licensed professional be able to like ask me some probing questions and help me get to like, okay, this is the why. Like, let's get to the bottom of this. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Because you can have these conversations with your friends and family, but it's like, maybe you can't, like, or maybe you don't have somebody you could just have a super raw conversation with and like, hey, am I normal? Like,
and get a resolution to it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Yeah, for sure. So what has been your favorite thing about motherhood?
There's so many things. I feel like we're just in such a fun phase right now, 4 and 3. And I just always look at them and I'm like, you guys are like little versions of me and Chris. Like, you're like our little people that we're responsible for.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying and like amazing at the same time. But I just love that I love taking care of things. I love like fixing things and teaching things. And I'm like doing all of that, teaching these little people like how to live and survive. And they're just sponges taking it all in. And so I think that's like so cool that I have this opportunity to like parent these girls and like help them grow up in this crazy world. And I don't know, it's just fun. Like we're just in like a fun but crazy stage. I mean, I sent Nichelle a picture this morning and I was trying to get a picture of Collins's shoes. She wears a uniform and I was like, oh, let me take a picture. You got these new shoes. And she's like holding a plate and like a little cup of like snacks. And she's just sticking her tongue out, like so annoyed that she was taking this picture. And I was just like, I'm going to love this.
You're like, this is where we are right now.
Yeah. Yes. But then at the same time, like the other night, I was giving them a bath and they're like putting bubbles on each other's noses and then like blowing it off and thinking it was the funniest thing. They were laughing so hard. I just wanted to like bottle that little like pureness up. Like they just don't know what I just hope they can, I wish they would stay pure and little like that forever. But yeah, I don't know. What about you?
That's so sweet. I think it's been nice to know that I can kind of like figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
I think that I was just so much like when I started out as a parent, it was very raw for me because I was so young. Like, these are the things I'm going to do and these are the things that I'm not going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And be able to kind of make up the rules as we go. I get to teach them the things the way that I want them to be taught. I get to have the conversations with them the way that I want to have the conversations with them, and raise them. I don't have to raise them based on anybody else's wants or needs. Yeah. It's like, I can do it the way that I want to. And there's so much of that. Like I could go really deep into that, but I think we might cover it in a second. I appreciate it so much, but then there's no right or wrong way.
Yeah.
But yeah, just seeing their personalities as they grow up, like the people, the humans that they're going to turn into. And as for me, like, I mean, I have technically an adult in the house right now, and it's like, we made that. Not feeling very confident right now, but bless her heart. She's such a good girl. I don't want her to get a bad rap, but she's so naive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but like she's a good
experience
some things.
She's a good girl. So we'll let her experience life and figure it out on her own. So,
but I think y'all are also, I mean, it's not like you're like, okay, bye. Like,
yeah, no,
y'all are really helping foster like a continued sense of like, okay, like this is real life. Like, here's what this means. Mm-hmm. Whereas I feel like some people are just like, great, you're 18, like out of the house. Yeah. Like, see ya at Christmas.
Yeah. No.
And that's not how this is
I definitely want her to succeed in the ways that even like Robert and I were like, we didn't have this, so we want to be able to support you in this,
Right.
So it was very, very, important for that. But then also having a second kid, seeing how freaking street smart she is. Right. She's just a whole other ball game. So
you're like, Bryn, are you actually ready to?
I know. She's like, bye, guys. I got this.
Okay, so what is one characteristic about yourself that you love that motherhood has revealed? And maybe one that you don't love as much?
Well, the first thing I think is what I don't love. It's revealed that not everything I felt was wrong with my childhood. Changing it wasn't necessarily the right move. Like, I think sometimes it came and bit me in the butt, But one thing that I do love, I think, about myself is that I've been able to create these open conversations with my kids.
Yeah.
Like, so open to the point where it's kind of cringy sometimes, but I wanted that more than anything because I didn't have that. Yeah. I was so scared to tell my parents stuff. And I was like, I don't want my kids to feel that way.
Right.
So
I feel like that's really like important advice just for me to even hear. My kids are younger, but I want to be able to have these like open conversations with them. I want them to come to me first and so it's kind of, I feel like I'll be talking with you about how how do I get to that
Yeah.
point
And not be
later?
their friend, still be their
Right.
parent, because I think there is a line that a lot of people cross. And maybe I have taken that in the past, but it's almost like to get to the bridge of like, so there's comfort in that.
Right.
But, you know, I've always said, I would rather you tell me first than lie about it so we can get to a solution. I will never be angry with you as long as you don't lie to me.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of what's opened that up. So
I think I always remember like in high school, like my mom at that time was not my friend.
Yeah.
Like she was the mom figure. Like she cared so much, but she wasn't like gonna be my friend.
Right.
And I, at the time, was like, you're so mean. Like, why are you being this way? And I look back now and we have such a great relationship. And I'm like, thank you so much for not wanting to just be my friend. Like for being a parent, for, you know, making me figure things out the hard way, for having like rules that I had to stick to. And if I didn't, there were consequences. Like that absolutely shaped me into my adulthood. And I mean, I had friends whose parents were their friends and they turned out completely opposite of me.
Yes.
You know, and it's like, I think there's a great balance. And, but yeah, I mean, I feel like
it's hard. It's honestly hard because it's like you pick and choose. We have these conversations all the time and you're like, well, why don't you do this? And I'm like, it's so hard when you're in the moment sometimes that it's like, I just kind of had to let that go because this is what was important in that situation. And it's so different with every single kid. I just had this situation happen Friday. Remember, my oldest wanted to go spend the night with a friend. And of course she needs us to take her because she's not driving yet. And I said, no. Yeah. She's 18. And like, I'm like, she could pull that card, but I feel confident she won't. She's never done that before. But there was no why or anything. And when I got home, I was like, do you know why I said no? And she was like, well, Dad said no too. That was the other thing. Like, we have to be on the same page.
Right. Which is something y'all had to like.
Yeah, I was scared he wasn't, but he definitely was on the same page. This girl was terrible to her. And I was like, sorry doesn't make her, like, her character better. Like, she's going to continue to be this person. And I love you too much to let you subject yourself to that. And she was like, thank you.
I was wondering, like, how
and
that
we had a great night. We all
like,
sat together and had dinner that night, laughing, watched a TV show, which doesn't happen very often. So I was like, instead of arguing with her, because I could tell her, no, she's a terrible person and I don't like her and blah, blah, blah. And like, that's what my mom would have done to me. And I would have been like, bye, I'm leaving, you know? But I just was like, the answer is I just love you too much to subject you to that. And she was like, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I think so many times, like, our kids just want to, like, be reminded that, hey, I love you. Like, I'm doing all of this for you. I read something the other day that was like, next time you give your kid a hug, don't be the first to let go.
I saw that. I love that.
And I've been doing that with Collins.
Yes.
And she's just, like, hugged me. Like, she'll just hug for a long time. And then she'll be like, okay.
I know.
And I'm like, oh, I can just... You know, but then I am sitting there so intentionally hugging her, not just to like, and she, you know, I mean, she's tall for her age. So sometimes I treat her like she's older and she'll be like, Mom, can you pick me up? And I'm always like, oh, come on. Like, let's just go up the stairs. But I'm like, no, I'm going to pick her up and like snuggle with her because that's what she needs. She needs to know that I love her and I'm for her.
Yeah.
I think it's just like, that reminder.
I know. Brenna's going through something right now where she needs to be told, but she's verbalizing it. Maddie never did this. Emotions, they kind of got pushed to the side, but Brenna's very emotional. So she always like says what she's feeling and very, very vocal. Like, okay, bye. Love you, Mom. Like how she says it is just like, I love you, right? You love me too.
Say it back. Say it back.
But now she'll like, if anybody is distracted at all, she takes it as, you don't love me. And I'm like, baby, no, that is not the case. You know, I'm like, and I've been trying to be vocal. I'm distracted. I was reading a book. I'm sorry. What can I do? Like, I love you doesn't mean I don't love you.
Right.
Bless her heart. So I'm glad that she's vocal about it because at least I know what she's thinking.
Right.
Instead of brooding about it.
Oh my gosh. I mean, think of like, that's actually like a great skill for her to have. 'Cause I just think of like past times, even like when I was growing up, not vocalizing certain things that were like hurting my feelings, that my family would have had like no idea that my feelings were getting hurt. But if I would have said like, hey, like when you don't spend time with me or when you do this, like that bothers me. And it could be like such a simple fix.
Yes.
My mom has said some things like, oh, well, if I would have known that when you were younger, like I would have,
Right.
figured out a better way to like love you in that way. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. People pleaser.
With other day, it was Robert. It was actually all of us in the car, and we were joking back and forth. And I was like, no. And then Robert was like, yes. Literally, because she had her AirPods in. She thought we were yelling at each other. And she was like, stop. And I looked back, and she has like tears in her eyes. And I was like, what? And she was like, I don't like it when y'all yell in front of me like this. And I was like, maybe we were joking.
You're like, this is like, we are good.
We're all like laughing because she just was in La La Land, but she thought we were arguing and she was upset.
So sweet. Oh my gosh. Okay, what's a motherhood lesson you learned the hard way? It could even be something like you need to take extra wipes to Target because you had a giant blowout one time, which I have definitely experienced that. Collins used to like only poop when we would go into Target. Like it would be like,
yes,
we're walking in and all of a sudden, and I would be like, okay, I guess we're going to just go right back out. And, the changing table is always in the most like unfortunate like location.
Yes.
Sometimes I would like go back to the car and like pop the hood and like lay her there.
Oh,
I
did that all the time.
There.
I was very grossed out with Madison about changing tables at first. Don't know why. I literally would pick up her pacifier, like lick it off and be like, here you go. But it was the changing table for some reason grossed me out. So I'd always go to the car. Yeah. And then I'm like, let's change and then we can go back in if we need to. But yeah, that was just like an SUV having that flat space in the back was great.
I know.
Yes.
Sometimes I'd be like, I wonder what people are thinking as they're driving by here, or like, should I really be doing this? But sometimes I feel like you just got to like do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
There's no.
Absolutely.
I mean,
I think, I don't know. I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned the hard way is things that I thought were difficult for me growing up, going back and saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it the opposite way. Mm-hmm. And it biting me in the butt because it didn't work.
Right.
So like my mom, how she would ground me if I ever got in trouble. I was like, I'm not going to ground them for everything. We're going to have a conversation about it. Mm-hmm. Now I feel like I have to ground my 18-year-old because I never did that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's just a very silly example, but there's very specific examples that like throughout my life, I was like, wow, that totally turned around and bit me in the butt. I should have just literally done it the way that like, I don't know. That probably was the right way. Just could have had a conversation around it too, instead of just being like, you're grounded, go to your room, goodbye.
Right.
I
know. I feel like I am sometimes like overly worried about them in the sense that I'll be like, hey, be careful. Be careful. Are you being careful? And it's, if they just constantly hear me telling them to be careful, I don't want them to get this complex that like every little thing they're doing is like either like bad or they should be worried about it. But it's mostly me just being like, okay, you're going to fall off of that. So stop.
Yeah.
Or
I think that's
I say
normal.
Be careful a lot. And I'm trying to not, because I also don't want to be like a helicopter mom of like watching their every move. But
I think you get to a certain point and that goes away. I was the same way. But then it went to, don't get into a white van that has blacked out windows. Yeah. You're going to get kidnapped, raped, and murdered. Like, so that's what they think now. So
great. Okay. So we'll just like advance to that level. Okay. We're getting close.
Worst case scenario mom here.
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes I just feel like this is a really scary world that we live in.
The media makes it very scary now because you see it all. So it existed, but now it very much exists because it's real. So what's the one thing that you look forward to the least in your current mom role?
I don't really thrive on an extracurricular activity for them.
Yeah, same.
Like,
do you know, I just thought about something. I feel like we've talked about this before. Is it because of the kind of people that we are, where it's like work is important and like it's like it's extra. Do you mind helping out with that? I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. Do you think that could be it?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of.
Sorry, I just had the aha. I was like, because I'm like, I don't really want to go sit in karate and wait for them to be done. You can go do that.
Right. And so that's kind of, I don't know, like Collins previously has done gymnastics or we did like swim lessons. And I remember it just always feeling like such a chore
Yeah.
to like leave work early or get like change my schedule around so that I could like accommodate.
Yeah.
And then I was like, does she even really like this? Does like, is this serving our family or is this like just actually like
Putting
hurting?
a burden on it.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
So I think, I don't know. I feel like the way I've kind of come to my senses on this is if they weren't in, like, I would understand if they weren't in like a daycare or like some type of program where they were like busy all day and then leaving and going. Like, I think if they weren't doing those activities, I would absolutely want them to be like socialized and go out after or later and do some of these things. But that's not their current situation. So I feel like I'm just trying to I don't want her to not experience like ballet and dance and the things if she wants to do those things. But I just don't, I feel the pressure on my end where Chris is so much more willing to be like, well, I'll just take her. Like, it's not a big, you don't have to stress about it.
Yeah.
But then I feel like this mom guilt of like, well, I'm not the one taking her.
Agreed.
So then am I a bad mom because I'm like allowing like you to do it? So it's like, what is better, to her just not doing it or me getting over the fact that like I'm not the one taking, that dad is the one taking?
At the end of the day, that's their special thing.
Right.
And that's the way that I look at it. You know what I mean? That's their special thing. We have our special things.
Right.
But like, this is what, Chris or Robert like thrive on. They enjoy doing this.
Right.
Whereas like, would they want us there if we're not enjoying it?
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
Well, and I think that this is like a conversation where it can get like so sticky.
Yeah.
For like motherhood and marriage. And like, that's been a lot of like the roles, like family dynamic roles for Chris and I are very like flip-flopped.
Yeah.
Just because I am like the career person and Chris has a career and he works for Leverly Gray too. But like his position is a lot more behind the scenes. Like we wouldn't be here without his position because he keeps the place alive.
Thank you.
Pays all the bills. Thank you. But, I also am the front of everything.
Yeah. And that's very different.
Yeah. And that's not traditional. And I think that's like, I grew up in like much more of a traditional, like these were like the gender roles for like the mom and the dad. And it was, so having to break those to be like, well, what works best for my family? But then people in my friend group might not understand it. So working through that, like, well, okay, I'm sorry, I can't be at soccer practice, but like Chris will be at soccer practice and like he's just going to be that extension for her.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and then you're
somebody
like, I'll
might
be
be
at the
judging
game at the
me,
end of the month when y'all have a game, but this is y'all's. Yeah, exactly.
So that's been something I think for both of us that we've had to kind of overcome. And even I think of like, he's the one that like does a lot of the cooking, the groceries, the like errands, the drop-offs. And I'm like, are you okay? Like I know that's probably not what you like expected when we got married. And that definitely what like those roles have even reversed several times throughout our marriage. But I think you just gotta have that open conversation and figure out like what's gonna work best for your family and know like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, agree. So has there been a book that you've leaned on heavily for marriage advice or that's helped you through?
So one that I like highly recommend, and we read this book when we were dating, was The 5 Love Languages. And it just really went through ways that people like to be loved. Yeah. And I think now there's like 7 of them maybe. But what I liked about it was it gave very specific real life examples. Like the author put in stories of people that literally gave you examples. And then he would have a conversation with them halfway through And then they would come back and be like, we've tried what you suggested, and this is like the adjustment it's made in our life. So you were seeing like, this is what they were doing. This is like the path you are probably going to go on.
Yeah.
But if you shift a little, this is what the outcome could be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like very early on, I was kind of like, okay, like this is your love language. Like you love physical touch, like noted. Let's hold hands. I always make sure to like hug or kiss, like whatever.
Right.
And that's how he feels loved. So I'm sure there's other probably better books that we should be reading now, but
I mean,
that
same
one
thing.
like really, I think, got us set up for success.
We didn't read it until the last several years,
Mm-hmm.
but it's probably been the thing that's helped us the most because he doesn't know how to express necessarily. Like I would be very vocal about, this is not making me happy. This is what I need. And he would just be like, I just need to be around you more. I just need, and he wouldn't know how to say it.
Right.
But whenever we read it, I was like, your love language is physical touch. And he's like, this all makes sense. You know, like this definitely all makes sense. And I was like, okay, that's opposite of mine. You know what I mean? So mine is, you know, total opposite and, you know, acts of service, you know, and things like that. So I think it was an eye-opening for him. And it was also eye-opening for me. Like, okay, this is the way that they feel loved.
Right.
You know, this is what they need in order to feel love. And I mean, there's sacrifices that have to be made. But again, that's what marriage is.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's a really good one. So we put up a question box on Instagram asking for some of your advice. Like if you could give yourself advice prior to getting married, what would it be? And we got some really great responses. So we're going to share some of this knowledge and hopefully some of this will resonate with you guys.
So this one was prepare more for the marriage than the wedding day.
Yes.
That was so good.
I mean, think about how many times people get engaged and it just is immediately like the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like you get married and you're like, oh.
Yeah. You hit this wall. It's like the day after and you're like, okay, now what?
Yeah. That's why I think doing premarital counseling, that's so key. Like, can just really like you want to like continue fostering the relationship after you're actually in it for the long haul.
Right.
Before you can. The next one is always talk with your husband first, not with others.
I think that's good. And I'm assuming they mean probably if you're having a disagreement, talk to him first rather than going and bickering with your friends. And
I mean, I think of like that's definitely I know people who are just like, my husband, and then it's kind of like, ooh.
Yeah. Does he know you feel that way?
Yeah. You know, that's a good one.
Yeah. Always make your spouse a priority. Yes. I feel like I've probably learned this the hard way over the years because, again, I was very young and very selfish. And then it was like, okay, wow, at the expense of what?
Right.
You know?
There's definitely been times where I've started doing things and Chris is like with the friends or something. And he's like, I kind of like thought that was going to be like an us thing. I didn't. Okay. Like what about me? And it's like, okay, I don't ever want him to think he's like second to friends or anything else.
Exactly.
Don't forget you're on the same team, never against one another.
Yes.
That is a huge one. And you can easily get on separate teams if you're not careful, I think. I think, especially with raising kids, like so many times I'm like, we're on the same team. Like if daddy said no, you can't do that, then that's mommy says no too. Like, don't work us against each other.
I know.
Like we
as soon as that happened the first time, we were like, if somebody says no, you don't get to go back and say yes.
Right.
That's an agreement.
You're like, got it?
Okay. We're on the same page.
So true.
Absolutely 100% do marriage counseling and marry someone who has the same faith as you.
I mean, that's great advice, but I don't know if that's necessarily always going to be like marrying somebody who's the same faith as you. I think it makes it easier for sure.
For sure. I think that needs to be a very, very serious conversation if you're not.
Right.
I have a friend who got married and they were of two different faiths, and it wasn't like a huge point of, I guess, conversation because the husband didn't want to have that conversation and end up being the downfall of their relationship. And
Communicate often and kiss every single day.
Love
Very
that.
true.
Love
Yep.
that. Your husband is not there to make your joy in life. It's unfair to expect that from one another. You create your own joy.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think there's definitely ways that like
they can help.
They can like support.
Yes.
But like you shouldn't be looking to only the spouse to bring joy, because that's not how it works.
Agree.
Be on the same page with finances, family values, etc. Yes.
Yeah.
I think having a conversation and sitting down and being like, what are our family's values going to be? Like that is, we kind of did a value conversation with Jen Bowie in our office and at a retreat recently. And taking that and like doing that at home, I feel like can really make sure.
It was so eye-opening.
Yes. Like that your family is like, this is who we are. And this is above all else, like we go back to these values.
Exactly.
But deciding that with your spouse is like really a great idea.
Absolutely. Be sure to have certain conversations and boundaries in place beforehand.
Don't try to change your spouse. Learn how to work together or better each other.
Love that. It's not going to happen.
No.
Like
you can try to change them, but
don't go into a marriage expecting, say, oh, I can change that about them.
Yeah. I was like, I feel like I'm like a fixer. Like in relationships, I was always like, oh, like I'll fix that problem they have, or I'll fix that for them. Obviously never worked out. Like, the people I always tried to fix were the ones that I like didn't marry, you know?
Exactly. Have your own routine and things you do for yourself. It's easy to just let go of those things.
Yes.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Totally.
Like have friends, go out and do things, have your own fun. I think I feel like it brings people closer together, because if you're constantly doing every single thing together, it probably could feel a little mundane, and you can find joy outside.
Absolutely. Let go of all expectations you have on what a perfect marriage should look like.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor.
Yes.
And just don't. Yeah.
Exactly. Ask yourself, will this matter in 5 minutes, 5 weeks, or 5 months? If not, back down and let it go.
I like that one.
I know.
That's a good one, because I feel like there's so many times where it feels so important. And then I'm like, we're not even going to think about this conversation in next week. Okay, maybe it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Give grace. Yes.
You're like, yes.
Literally have the word grace tattooed on my arm so I can give myself grace, but it's so true. And like giving other people grace and just being like, hey, people make mistakes. Like it's fine.
Yeah. If you expect somebody to give you grace, then you need to be able to give in return for sure.
Absolutely.
You're a team. Work through decisions and everything together as a team.
Yeah. I feel like we've talked about that one several times throughout.
Exactly.
But truly. I hope you guys have found some interesting advice here. I feel like this has been a really good episode. I think at the end of the day, like no marriage is perfect. No mother is perfect. Everybody is
Don't compare
doing the
yourself
best
to, anyone else. Yeah.
All right, friends. Well, thank you. Until next time.